So good morning.
Good morning.
I am going to start by reading something out of this little red book. It says, "Listen carefully to the Master's instructions and attend to them with the ear of your heart." This is the first line in the Rule of Benedict. And today we're starting a new series called Intentional Living, the Benedictine Path. Now, I'll tell you, last night while I was on social media, pretty much every priest was saying, "Oh no, you have to rewrite your sermon because all the things that are happening in the news. War breaks out, you're supposed to rewrite." I didn't do that. And I didn't do that because there's always news. And I feel like we're sort of on this anxiety-inducing reel of news. And, this morning, I was getting ready, I was in the shower, and just kind of thinking about the morning as I do, and all of a sudden I hear Myra say, "Oh no." And I think, "Oh no." My heart drops, and I'm just waiting, oh no, what possibly can happen? I'm thinking, Washington, D.C. is gone, or something bad, is just waiting. And I reach out of the shower, and I said, What's happened? She said, "We're out of toilet paper." And I thought, I may be operating a little bit too high of anxiety. And it really underscores for me why we stick to what we're about to talk about. And it's because really ordering our spiritual life, it's how we deal with the news. It's how we live through the times, whatever those times are. So we have 22 weeks from now until Advent. And during those 22 weeks, I want to talk about intentional living. One of the things I hear a lot as a priest is that people really want their experience of God to reach beyond Sunday. And they really want it to be this guiding force for their life. But it's hard. Life can get busy really fast, and days just slide by without us really taking time to dedicate ourselves to God. And then we show up here the next Sunday, and we're like, "Oh, I was going to do that," And sometimes it really is just that. It's just time. A lot of it sometimes is not knowing exactly what it is to do, right? It's one thing to say that we want to live our lives attuned to God. It's a whole different thing to know how to do that and what that actually means. So what I'm hoping is that this series will help ground us in some of that work. So I started with the Rule of Benedict. The Rule of Benedict is a 6th century manual. It arranges each day around prayer and work and rest so that a community stays centered on God. It was written by Benedict of Nursia in 537 AD as an instruction manual for his monastery. It's short. It's this little bitty book, but it contains so much wisdom and so much guidance so that the monastery could be stable, that they could avoid extremes, and that they could keep their members focused on God while they were working, while they were praying, making sure that they got rest, that they lived in balance. And over the years, several monastic communities, churches, and individuals, they've taken this rule of life and they've used it as a guidepost for their own way of being. What many communities do is they start with this rule and then they find how best to adapt it to their particular circumstances or personality. So what Benedict did that was so genius is he really pushed moderation. His rule weaves prayer, work, study, rest, hospitality, all into the single rhythm so that devotion never drifts into exhaustion and work never loses that sacred center. Sometimes it feels like work gets in the way of living for God. But Benedict says that work is part of what we do as our being in God. And so there is a real focus about how we make our work sacred, whatever that work is. It is part of the rhythm and the pattern of our life. So by studying wisdom in this rule, we can learn to hold our tasks, our work, and our worship in the same steady heartbeat of grace. So what I did is I started with the gospel lessons for the next 22 weeks, and I matched each pericope with a part of the Rule of Benedict, so that by the end of the series, we'll cover all the themes in this book. Each week, I do have a small homework assignment. There's actually 2 homework assignments each week. One is a little lighter, but still really effective. And the other is for people maybe who've practiced contemplation or intentionality a little longer. Both tracks are completely good. Each week, you just decide which fits better for you that week. Some weeks, you're going to want to go deeper. And other weeks, you're just going to prefer to keep things a little lighter. And both are perfectly fine. At the end of the 22 weeks, I want us to come together as a congregation and talk about what disciplines, what rhythms were meaningful to you individually and then to us as a church. It'll be fun, I think, to see what happens. And I think that, it's 22 weeks, it's a long time, but I don't think you're going to want to miss it because we're really going to have an opportunity as both a community and as individuals to grow deeper in our faith. So also, do pray for all the members of the church during these 22 weeks, because when you get really serious about living for God, all sorts of distractions can show up. So I apologize for that in advance. But we'll pray through it. So in today's gospel, so we'll start with today's gospel, Jesus steps from this boat onto Gentile soil. A man who's bound by demons, he rushes towards him, and with one command, come out. The storm inside that man ends. He sits clothed and clear-minded, and Jesus gives him a directive. Go home. Go home and tell what God has done for you. Healing turns into purpose without delay. And the story shows our first principle. Life in God begins with attention. The man's turning toward Jesus is an act of focused awareness or attention that allows healing to take place. Jesus then redirects that restored awareness outward and says, go home and tell, demonstrating that attentive consciousness is the gateway to both transformation and purposeful action. Attention means steady, deliberate noticing. When we register a breath, a voice across the table, or a hush between sentences, we stand where God is already active. Living with intention keeps us awake to the movement and opens us to change. Attention, paying attention, is the doorway to every other discipline. Without it, prayer becomes resuscitation, and work becomes hustle, and rest becomes escape. Attention gives us the split second that we need to decide our next word, our next gesture, or to receive silence. In that pause, new patterns take root. So we begin here. To cultivate attention this week, choose 1 or 2 of these practices. Select one that matches your capacity each day and switch as needed. You don't have to do the same thing every day. The aim is consistency. So the first practice is just a 1-minute pause. Set a daily alarm. Pick a time and set it on your watch, set it on your phone, or a little clock. And set an alarm. Maybe it's during your commute or your coffee break or at bedtime or maybe when you first wake up. And just set the timer for 1 minute. Silence your phone and close your eyes and then inhale and say, here I am, when you breathe in. And as you breathe out, here you are. And just do that for 1 minute. Here I am, here you are. And continue that for 60 seconds. And then, at the end, ask, where might I notice you next? It's 1 minute. But that 1 minute trains your mind to return to God before the hurry takes over. The second, or other practice, is actually, it's 5 minutes of silence. It's only 5 minutes. And to do this, this is a little more of centering prayer, where the other one is a little more of a breath prayer. So centering prayer, sit upright in a quiet place, be comfortable, but set a timer for 5 minutes. And follow your breath. Just listen to your breath. Just slow your mind. And when thoughts start to wander, gently repeat the word attention. And that will help bring your mind, because you're going to have other thoughts. Oh, I didn't go buy that. I need to go get that. I need to call that person. And it's okay. And when that happens, you just say, oh, go away, attention, and you come back. And then when the timer sounds, write down one sentence about what surfaced. An image, a pause, a phrase, a feeling, and then just carry that sentence around with you for the day, and then do it again the next day. So 5 minutes widens that inner space where guidance can rise without strain. If you've worked your meditation muscle in the past, you can do 20 minutes. But 5 is actually a really good place to start. If you've not done it before, don't start with 20. Start with 1, start with 5. So begin with practice A if stillness feels new. Move to practice B when you sense a pull for more depth or change between the two. If a day unravels, start again at the next alarm. Progress rests on return, not perfection. Benedict always says, begin again. This is the key to consistency. Don't give up. If you miss once, or if you are distracted, always begin again. So next Sunday, we're going to shift from attention to time, ordering minutes and hours so that our attention and intention hold. So I'm eager to walk this path with you. Show up, and let's try to practice. Let's play with this a little bit. And we'll share with what you notice. God will meet us. So let us begin. And now,